reservation. And of course, the United States So we do have a lot of outreach. Again, folks, you should be proud of all your elected officials. A lot of community members, site-specific advisory board, volunteer their time, participate, bear with us, do a lot of excruciating detailed discussions, reflect desire of the local community to help us get what we came up with as a common goal line. So a site that's capable of jobs, reindustrialization, after we take care of the demolition site. And so with that, I think we've got a pretty comprehensive plan that we've got in play. It's being executed very well. Our site contractor would be, and I do want to point out, we also have this good what we call prime contractors on site. And they do roads and other infrastructure as well as some from our side. So there's a lot of people, a lot of companies out there. Really appreciate all this. So one of those is site-specific advisory board. A lot of people, I can tell you, they don't get rich participating on the board. I think the pay they get for each attendance is nothing. So they volunteer their time and they do it take care. We've got a lot of good discussion, we get a lot of good feedback. I think a lot of what we're doing, a lot of our outreach, is crafted on recommendations that we provide. It's things like just good. When we go out and do, for example, things like this, somewhere in there's a community outreach plan and the SSAB thought about. When we go and interact with local high schools, there's an SSAB piece to that. The life cycle baseline, comprehensive plan we can show, keep track of and update everybody on progress being made. There's a site-specific advisory that just can't say enough about the involvement and participation. Also, we have a pretty close relationship with Ohio University. They have done a lot of, I'll say, investigation on, what does the community desire, once we finish our mission there, so we can not wait till the end to hopefully have somebody else pick up the ball and carry it forward. We want to do this in concert. So there's a lot of outreach that's done previously, a lot of stuff that still goes on today, and that's foundational parts that we use to our end state, and that is reindustrializing the site, clean up, don't baby out with bathwater, have something that provide jobs for the future, and also be careful consideration of what we do take out, because if you're familiar with the site, we have a lot of infrastructure that's not available to anybody else in the state, or even very few places in the country. We want to make sure that if somebody desires that we're conscious about that we'll care about what we take out, what we do. Records of decision, a lot of this, what we do is guided by regulation. We have a lot of it, and it gets to be complicated sometimes, especially if you have to, explain it to somebody. In my words, I say it's a lot like sausage. If you ever see it being made, you'll never eat it again. And our regulatory framework coverage is a lot like that, I have to say. And we have a lot of different pieces of the site covered under different regulatory vehicles. One of those that we're talking about tonight is the draft environmental assessment for property transfer. These records of decision don't address that. They address what we're doing relative to clean up, agreement with Ohio EPA, address property transfer. That's a separate. And other examples of that we're going to talk about. in the end, our approach is we all agree on what the end state is. I think we have a common understanding of that. It's a site that provides some future employment, for next generation, this community, and we want to be good stewards of what we've got and pass that to the next tenants or tenants of the site. And so with that in mind, as we address each of these regulatory vehicles, even though they may be different and only focus on one single aspect, we try to make it a comprehensive package so it always has the common state in mind. So anyway, our site really is not that complicated. Because we just did gaseous diffusion at the site of Mr. Lane. Our plan is really to take the old structures down. Yes, there's some out there that are a little bit newer that if somebody needed, we can work on accommodations with. When you think about it, nobody's interested in a 50s village building out there. Taking all the man-made structures down to part of the gaseous diffusion process. With that, we're also going to put those, ship those things off-site, suitable for on-site disposal. We're going to put the demolition debris in the on-site disposal cell, and we're going to use the soil excavated from our landfills and plumes as a placement material for that. And so the process is reasonably simple. We need to take the building down. In order to do our excavation of a particular landfill and plume replacement, we need to have cell capacity for that disposal. And so that's what we try to work with and keep in step those processes going on. Consistent with what you guys have said, don't wait until the end to make property available for any reindustrialization opportunity, right? So as we're moving through this process, we try to peel off pieces of the site and make those available for those people who are working hard to bring in industry back to this neck of the woods. So you've got some really great folks working hard to do that. Okay? This is a very complicated picture, but it shows that we've got, those landfills and plumes tied to each demolition activity, process buildings, all the way through balance of plant. And so as part of our execution strategy, Dennis's folks have baked that into the project schedule. You'll see that in the life cycle baseline. That's our plan. That's the work that we put under the contract. And to get a little bit more information on that, then I just advise you to talk to the folks over there at the environmental remediation side or the deactivation side. I mentioned property transfer. Again, so we're working all this stuff in concert, and we have our environmental assessment. And what that does is that considers transfer property for some future use. It doesn't alleviate the department of its responsibility to clean it up, make it safe for transfer. So we are asking, if you got any comments on that? You see the people over there, they're very written comments on the environmental assessment. We also, if you want to see it online, you can also go to the website there as well. Yeah, so I'll turn this over to Dennis, but I do, there's a lot of good stuff going on. People are working really hard. You should be part of that workforce. You should be proud of yourself. You should be proud of them. And also, I'll say, elected officials, your union leadership, you should be proud of those folks too, because they have worked really hard. If you don't pass the year without getting into a concern over funding, there's a lot of good folks that push that really hard. And I don't know anything about the new team coming in, other than, man, I do like, just like if you watch the press, I watch the press, I do like to see the reports, but this is part of the conversation. That's our job to do it. I'll turn it over to Dennis.
Appreciate it, Joel. I'm going to attempt to use the podium here, so I don't get the feedback. Can you hear me? All right, okay. Appreciate it, Joel, and good evening, everybody. My name is Dennis Carr. I'm with Floor BWXT at the site here, and we are a contractor to the Department of Energy. Our job, as it says on here, is what we call the D&D project. And I'll talk a little bit about the scope of our project. We are obviously an affiliation of two companies brought together, and we also have, while it says Floor BWXT, there's actually a third member of our team, which is CH2 Hill, which is part of our team. So that constitutes our team. And our singular mission here is the execution of the obviously development and execution of plans to clean up this site. So with that, just talk a little bit about our role, because when you think of a D&D contractor, it's actually a little bit more extensive than that here at the site. So as you can see up there, D&D. Now what does D&D on this? Complicated words. In general, it is all the planning for the deactivation of buildings, bringing them to a safe configuration such that they can be demolished. That includes all of the facilities and structures, as Joel talked about. There is actually, if you go out there and place numbers on everything at the site, every building and every substantive little structure on the site, there's about 415 structures on the site. Of that, there is about 145 acres of roof. While we are one of the smallest Department of Energy sites, in fact, we are the smallest that remains on that list. We also have by far the largest acreage under roof, and by far the largest acreage both managed and from the size, square footage of deactivation and demolition. So we are a large-scale project. We do not necessarily have some of the bad actors at the other site. We didn't deal with reactors here and reactor materials. So, but the bottom line from the square footage standpoint, we are the largest department. Second is environmental remediation. We'll through a little bit. Not only do we have obligations to remove the structures, we have an obligation to find and address and make certain that we clean up any contamination that's been created by the legacy of 60 years of operation of this facility. And it's to establish cleanup levels with the Ohio Department of Health and Ohio EPA, with the Department of Energy, and then execute those and demonstrate that we have certified that we have cleaned that property to those standards. Laboratory services, again, it's part of the execution of this. Everything comes down to proving it. All right, when we go out and take a building down, before we demolish that building, we need to know, from the safety of our workers what we're dealing with. Just the same way in the cleanup of the soil. What is there today, and prove it's gone tomorrow. That means analytical services. We have a full suite of analytical capabilities on the site to run those capabilities. But in the end, everything comes down to proving it with data. So it's a key integral number, piece of our responsibility. Waste disposition. Dean Lundell and his team is over on the side to answer some questions later. Bottom line here is all the material that's going to be generated from those 415 structures, some 1.4 million cubic yards has to be dispositioned. That is a daunting task. You think about a bag of mulch is about 3 cubic feet. It takes about 9 bags of mulch to make a cubic yard. Start multiplying out what that looks like, and you start coming up with just an immense quantities of material that has to be dealt with at this facility. We've taken a jump on it. We recognize that we don't have an on-site disposal facility, so we've attempted to focus our effort and our dollars on dispositioning those materials that are not acceptable for on-site disposal. That's where our activities are today. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. On-site disposal, construction, talk about that. Obviously, JD and Frank Miller and their team are here to talk to you today. That's obviously disposal of materials from this site that can be safely disposed at this facility. Uranium management and processing. Uranium managing processing is when this, the bottom line here is that we maintain an inventory of material. When this site shut down, there was an inventory of material that was left, right? Our job is to disposition that. Also, when the Fernald facility shut down over by Cincinnati, which I wasn't part of, we shipped about 11 million pounds of uranium inventory over here. We thought that it could be used for beneficial purposes. Gradually, it's no longer of that value, so we're now dispositioning that material. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then lastly, 145 acres of roof. We have 275 acres of floor space on this facility. Think about one football field is 1 acre. All right, start thinking about managing that. And that's what we do. We have an incredibly dedicated maintenance group. We are a small city, all right? We have 30 million gallon a day water treatment capability, sewage treatment, medical facilities, laboratory facilities. We have it all. Only thing we don't have is Billy Spencer as mayor out there. Other than that, we have everything the city has, and it's an incredible infrastructure that we don't want to willy-nilly tear out if it's some benefit to the next user of this site. So I'd like to move forward. Next slide. So moving into this, we'll talk a little about where we're at. Okay, so if you've been on that site, you stand up on the hill and look down on that site, it's pretty obviously where the critical path of our project runs. You've got 3 buildings that are each one of them 33 acres under roof. 3 of the largest buildings ever constructed in the world are on this facility that supported the Cascade operations. Again, I forgot to mention, our scope is associated with the Gaseous Diffusion operations. We are not associated with American Centrifuge. We are associated with Gaseous Diffusion. These facilities are the core of the Gaseous Diffusion operations. Our facility was broken into 3. We are a unique facility in that we could take enrichments from right out of the ground, naturally enrichment. Uranium-235 is a physical element. Dig it out of the ground. Everything in nature has 0.71% uranium-235. Our job is to enrich that through the cascade process, through the enrichment process, up to the highest possible levels that were necessary to support naval fuel. Along the way, there was a series of other products for reactors and for components for weapons. The bottom line, we could do that whole array, all right? That was divided into 3 buildings. The highest level of enrichment capability at this site was in the X326 building. We decided to start there with our deactivation activities simply because the level of safe handling controls that are associated with materials of that enrichment we felt were not conducive to on-site disposal. They could not stay here. So while we were pursuing whatever the decision would be for that facility, we decided to start into this building about 5 years ago. And so we have been diligently inside that building proceeding with what we call deactivation. The goal of deactivation is to achieve the word up there, cold and dark, all right? And so when these facilities were turned off, there was a yeoman's job that was done to try to clean those facilities out, all right? You don't operate for 60 years the way this facility was and not have residual materials in those systems. So the entire system of the Cascade, including the X326, has residual materials in them. Our job is to make certain that we can safely deactivate these structures. And the hazards that are associated with that, number 1 is the higher the enrichment. Obviously the concern for a criticality event, a fissionable event. Our job is to make certain under no possible conditions that ever happen, and it's never have and it never will. But our job is to make certain we do that. Secondly, is that material that remains in the system has an inherent hazard associated with it. That gaseous, it's mainly a chemical hazard that's associated with the generation of hydrofluoric acid. Our job is to take that hazard away from our workers so when we go to open up those systems and demolish that facility, that those hazards are taken away from our workers. And then third is obviously the inhalation hazard associated with the materials. And that's the nature of the uranium materials. Our job is through protective equipment and through removal of mass from inside the systems to protect our workers. When all those states come together and we can achieve a condition where we feel that and prove through analytical data that we can safely demolish the structure, at that point in time, we come to the Department of Energy and we have what we call downgrade facility. What that means is we are taking it from a nuclear facility to a radiological facility. What that means is under no conditions whatsoever, even with the building there or in a pile of rubble on the ground or a pile of rubble in the disposal facility, under no conditions could it ever achieve a criticality. That's when you can downgrade a facility. And only under those conditions can we ask the department to do it, and we have to prove it. So that's number 1. Second is to see out there is downgraded security. So when I get to achieve that point, now all of a sudden I can start removing some of the controls that are very expensive. Right now today, as you might expect, when you've got that type of enrichment materials, I have very heightened security surrounding it. You know, everybody comes on our property, we know we got guards and guns a lot of places, all right? We can start dropping that security level. which allows us to now start moving in potentially construction workers to demolish the facility. And then lastly, now that I've got those controls out, I'm no longer concerned about criticality. Now I can isolate the building and make it go cold and dark. What that is I am removing the hazard of potentially energized system from the worker. The last thing I want is a D&D worker going out there and cutting into a live line. So isolate the structure. Once that has been achieved, we achieve what we call cold and dark. That is my objective to attain by the end of this calendar year, is cold and dark status in the X326 building. That is the objective, the number one objective on this site is to safely do that by the end of the calendar year. To do that, where have we gone so far? If you went into that structure 4.5 years ago, you would see just a massive array of equipment. It's almost hard to explain. Since that time, what we wanted to do was to take away the source term associated with that. The records of decision that Joel talked about committed to an administrative control and committed that that equipment would be shipped off the site. So we endeavored to remove about 7,200 individual pieces of process equipment. What leaves behind then is the piping system. We have removed that. Dean's group has systematically then characterized that through non-destructive assay. If it met the shipping criteria, we have packaged it and we have shipped it. And we have become, by virtue of that, the largest shipper in the Department of Energy. We ship more than the rest of the complex combined. And so we have diligently done that. We have removed all the equipment. The only thing that remains now is about 130 pieces that exceed the shipping criteria that we have to systematically disassemble, vacuum out the material, reassemble it, and then ship it. And we're doing that in a systematic, controlled manner, because that's just not something you will-nilly go do. So, that's as far as the overall process, so what that leaves behind, and it says comprehensive, labor-intensive. Now we've got the equipment out, that's where we stand today. We have 250,000 linear feet of pipe in the X326 building. We have to prove that every foot of that meets the criticality control decision, threshold. We have to demonstrate that we meet the allowable holdup or allowable remaining contamination residual material in every foot of that pipe before we can declare that that facility is ready for downgrade. And so that's what we're doing today. We have a lot of members of this community, a lot of the young members of this community have become part of our non-destructive assay group. It's the largest non-destructive assay group in the Department of Energy complex. We are systematically out there scanning foot by foot in those systems out there today. And that's a lot of paper, a lot of data, but in the end, that's the basis for moving forward. We got to have that proof that we met those criteria. So that's what we're doing inside the building. Cold and Dark 2017. Next one is, now we're moving from the high end of the cascade, which was the X326, which took us from 11% to greater than 97% enrichment. Now let's go down to the other side of the plant, all right? And now we're at the X333, which was the beginning point of this process. It took it from 0.71% up to around 4%. In some cases a little higher than that, but generally about 4%. So it's the low end. When you get down to the low end, if you're familiar with the site, the equipment starts getting a whole lot bigger, all right? And we're talking massive sizes of equipment. So where we stand today is that we have begun releasing our personnel from the X326 and started moving our crews down to the X333 building. Right? So in order to now make the preparations to start doing all the deactivation activities necessary in the X333, we've begun all the preparations that we needed to do that, including to go inside the structure in order to gain access to even survey the equipment of the piping. It's all covered up by panels, just like an X326. We've been removing all those panels to give us access. It's a labor-intensive job. It's not the prettiest job in the world, but it had to be done. So we're inside there. Literally, tens of thousands of panels have to be removed. When you're talking about buildings that are 33 acres, like this building is, we're talking about massive quantities. Moving on, we have a dust suppression, a fire suppression system. If we're going to cut out piping and and individual pieces of equipment, we got to ensure fire safety for our workers, life safety code, all right? The fire system in that facility was degraded. It is a dry pipe system, meaning that the pipes themselves are dry, but if one of the sprinkler heads detects a flame, it then sends water to that head, so it then engulfs the system. And so the bottom line here is we've had to do a lot of repairs to restore that. We're still in the process of doing that. We've got some 30,000 sprinkler heads in that building on one floor alone. Right, so start thinking about what it takes to do that and how many miles of pipe that are up there associated with it. So we've been trying to restore the systems on a systematic basis in those areas where we're starting our work first. It's going to be a long playing record, making certain we've got adequate fire suppression control. Transformers, worked with SODI. The transformers are down on the first floor. It's a 2-floor structure. The transformers, this single building used up to almost well over a gigawatt of power to run this. I don't know the exact number. The whole site was about 2.2 gigawatts. This single building was I can tell you, it was the largest user of power in the United States. There is no question in my mind. So start thinking about what kind of transformers that were in there. So we worked with SODI to remove those transformers and send them off for recycle. They did a yeoman's job of abating the asbestos that was in them and then recycling the metal. So this was a condition where we had materials that were outside the radiological area that were available for recycle. There are some requirements that things that are behind our radiological lines are not available for recycling. And that's just an administrative order that's been issued quite a few years ago that precludes us from recycling. So we've been focusing outside of our radiological areas, and this is one of the opportunities. Large process gas equipment. So, working with the site-specific advisory board, with the unions, and on site here with the Department of Energy, we started focusing on first off, on the nickel inside. Inside these process vessels, there's a large quantity of elemental nickel that was used in the process. It does have some value. We started focusing on the potential recycle value of that nickel, meaning just don't throw everything away. Now, obviously, it's inside our process. It's heavily contaminated. We've been focusing on, is there a possibility in the future of decontaminating that? So while we were evaluating that, we were also evaluating what would be the viability of us going off and recovering that. And so we did a full economic analysis of this, looking at not only the advantage of giving us a potential for recycle value, but we looked at what would be the advantages for on-site disposal to remove that nickel, which has the vast majority of the mass in the building, take that, crush that up, hold it for potential recycle, and then give us the ability to cut up the remaining shell. These individual units are called converters. They're actually 13 feet in diameter, 26 feet long, and 66,000 pounds. In order to place that in an on-site disposal facility requires a huge volume of space inside the disposal facility. So we factored in then how much smaller could we make the disposal facility and then factor in that price along with then presenting the viability for a future recycle. Came to the conclusion it was in everybody's best interest to pursue the recovery of the nickel and the size reduction of these facilities. So we are right now out in the X333 and down in the low end of the plant, which is the lowest enrichment. And we are clearing out 4 cells, which is about half a football field of all the equipment is being cleared out right now with the intent to now build inside that structure. We're going to build a small processing area to allow us to take these 66,000 pound converters, bring them into this material sizing area and cut them open, recover that nickel, and then cut up that shell into the most optimal configuration for on-site disposal. And so it's a mammoth task. There are 640 of those converters in there. So think about the size of that and magnitude. Each one of them has and talking about the thickness of the walls of the metal. It's a significant undertaking. So right now, the stage we're at right now is clear out the area. Our goal is to do that by the end of April. Massive task that's underway right now. So what else is going on? Demolition. We still try to do some demolition. Again, we're trying to we've tried to focus on demolishing the buildings that were available to us that were outside of radiological areas. Demolishing buildings that were contaminated, when you don't have a decision, don't have a disposal facility on the site, didn't make a whole lot of sense. We focused on clean buildings. One of the buildings on the site was our fire. We had a fire training or a firing range, an outside firing range that was within the footprint of the on-site disposal facility. This is basically was a picture demolishing the structure. Obviously, what comes on with a firing range is 50 years of lead in the soil. All right, so we had to go out, and there were specific requirements on how you close these things. You have to take the big chunks of lead out. You got to sift them out, and then you got to amend the soil such that that essentially eliminates the leachability of the remaining lead. And then that soil has been stockpiled, and that'll be some of the first stuff that goes into our on-site disposal facility and so forth. So that area has now been cleaned, and it's been made available for use for the on-site disposal facility. That's before, and that's the after, what it looks like. Today, you wouldn't even be able to see that because now it's been within your footprint of JDs. Next one. Waste removal. I already talked about Dean and the magnitude of his project. He's had about, again, largest shipper in the Department of Energy for 5 years in a row. We've shipped now 5,200 shipments, and the magnitude of it is just staggering. And the number one thing here is every single shipment has to be compliant. There is no exception to that rule. Everybody knows the consequence when you're in that organization of failure. And we have not failed. He's been compliant, and it's a great team that's been executing this. This focuses on one specific element. We have many different types of waste. We have things that we call low-level radioactive